Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we're installing a single 40-inch light bar on a 2022 GMC Sierra 2500. First thing we're going to do is pop the hood and remove the 9 push pins on top. The way you remove these is just put the screwdriver underneath the tab, pop the tip up, and then they should come out freely, just like that. I'm going to put these away. Now that we got all the push pins, now the last thing we need to do is take out the 2 Torx screws on top to be able to remove the actual latch, and then the whole plastic trim piece should go up. We're going to take this latch out by using a T15 Torx tool. So when you take out the 2 screws, you just slide the handle forward and it completely comes off. Now we can go ahead and lift the top plastic trim piece and completely put it to the side. Next thing we're going to do is remove the 4 10mm screws on top. Alright, next thing we have to do to get this grill loose, we got to take off these end pieces, the face plates. What we're going to do, we're going to pop this up, the fender flare, and there's a screw here that we're going to be taking it out, and then they'll be able to just clip off. Let's see what we can start off with. Our next thing we're going to do is take out a 7mm bolt that's hiding behind this trim piece. It's a 7mm socket, and that's going to separate the fender from the bumper caps. Okay, put this out to the side. Next we're going to do is take out these 2 T15 screws from the inner fender. That's 1. 2. Follow me to the other side, the passenger side. We're going to do the same thing we did on the driver's. So go ahead and pry this open first. Just use your fingers and your thumb to press up against the body panels. The only thing this is held on is just white plastic pins, and you'll see it as I'm removing them. You need 1 more in order to get access to that side screw. Okay. Oops. And it is a 7mm. Got the 7mm screw out. Now we're going to get the T15 screws from the inner fender. There's 2 of them. Once we remove those inner bolts, we can actually put a pry pin in here, pry tool in here, and just prop these 2 pieces together. And that's going to allow us to kind of start unclipping. See? And all just held on top are these grooves. So when you pop these open, kind of work your way and prop it down. And there we go. Some of these pins, when you take them out, they are capable of breaking. So you can pick these up at your local hardware store. It's just a clip, you take it out, and you can replace it with a different one. So we're going to do the same thing on the passenger side. First thing we're going to do is separate the 2 parts like that. See, and that already unclips probably the bottom one. Now I'm going to get my fingers underneath it and just pry outward and down. No, doesn't want to budge. Okay. What I can do, you can put a screwdriver in here without scratching anything and try to pry it against itself. See, got the second one out. We just need one more. One more on top. And one clip right here. Okay. So now that we got the two side caps opened, you can just pull on the grill, detach it from the top clips. There's a couple of clips on the bottom. You just grab on it and kind of just pull slightly to unclip it. There you go. Now there's one wiring harness here. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to press the button and take out the harness. So just press on the red button and pull up. So after you remove the wiring harness, that's how you pretty much remove the grill. The last thing you have to do is just pretty much get it off the vehicle. These are the brackets that you get with the GMC Sierra 2500 kit. You get a driver and a passenger side bracket, and every light bar will get 2 mounting bolts and 2 washers. You don't need any additional hardware to attach the M&R brackets to the vehicle because we're going to be reusing the same hardware that we take out. Notice that the mounts are slotted for different height adjustments. We did that in order to compensate for different type of grille design. Let me show you how to go ahead and install it. We're going to go ahead and do the passenger side first. There's a plastic trim piece. Put a screwdriver in there and kind of pry the push pins out. It comes out fairly easy. I'll show you how these push pins look like when you take them out. So we're going to take this one out too, because they're going to interfere with our M&R bracket. I mean, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So we're just taking out the 2. There's also one that's really up high and it's impossible to get to unless you take out the headlight, so we're not going to worry about it. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to prop this out of the way. Get it around the harness. And then you'll see 2 bolts here. The one we're going to use for the light bars brackets would be the top one. So we're going to take it out. It's a 10 millimeter. We're going to slide the M&R bracket through it and we're going to reinstall it. Now that we've taken out the factory bolts, use the provided washers in order to mount the M&R bracket. What we're going to do is feed the washer through the factory bolt. It's going to also be fed through the M&R bracket, and we're going to go ahead and mount it back onto the vehicle. We'll go around the plastic trim piece. We'll align everything. And keep in mind, we're also only hand tightening this until we get the light bars in. There we go. We're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. I'm going to go ahead and pry this open. And these are the little push pins that I was talking about. And just take them out. That's one. And the second one after over here. After we prop this plastic trim piece off, we're going to go ahead and remove the top bolt. And we're going to reuse that top bolt to feed through the M&R bracket. So here we go. It's a 10 millimeter bolt. Once you've taken out the factory bolt, we're going to go ahead and feed it through the M&R supplied washer. And we're going to go ahead and mount it to the bracket using the same hardware. We're going to go ahead and finger tighten it just so that way we can do the final adjustment after we get the light bar into the brackets. Now that you've installed the M&R supplied brackets, we're going to go ahead and install one M&R 40-inch light bar. These button head bolts are included in the kit. We'll go ahead and finger tighten them, and we'll do the same thing on the passenger side. And by tightening the light bar, it's going to pivot the bracket and put it in a desired location. Also, you have the flexibility of mounting it at different parts of the grill. So I'll show you guys how to use the rail system in order to align it with the grill opening. So let's see how the slide bar aligns with the grill on its lowest position. So notice when I'm tightening the light bar, it's actually putting this bracket in place. And then we'll go ahead and do the final adjustment. Same thing on the driver's side. So now we're gonna go ahead and mock up the grill. And we'll see if this is the desired location of the light bar. Perfect example. I think the light bar itself can be raised a little bit, so that way it's better aligned with this opening. So we're going to remove the grill and raise it up a little bit. But you can see here the M&R bracket is on a slotted system, so you can maneuver the light bar up and down for different grill designs. I'm going to take the grill back off. We're going to go ahead and mount it slightly higher. And we're going to test fit the grill again. I think this is a much better placement. Now that we have the desired placement of the light bar within the grill, we'll go ahead and do the final tie down of the side bolts and the ones that connect the M&R bracket to the vehicle. Now that we have the bracket in, the push pins that you've originally taken out, it's very difficult to put them back in. We're going to go ahead and not put them in, and the grill is just going to cover everything behind it. Because we installed a single color light bar on this truck, the wire only comes with 2 wires. There's a negative and a positive. We're going to be using a generic wiring harness that can be purchased on Amazon or eBay. M&R does not sell the wiring harness. The wiring that it comes with, it's a little bit over 6 feet, so you should be able to have plenty of length in order to connect it to a wiring harness. Okay. Now that we're getting ready for wiring, I'm trying to figure out a way to pass through the trigger cable for the power button inside the cab. I'm looking, there's a couple spots there where you could actually feed it through the side here, and it can go inside one of these cover plates. So there's an easy way and a hard way of getting it installed. The easy way would probably just be feeding it through here and having it go inside, maybe come out somewhere here on the dash. The hard way, it's probably a better way, but it's a little bit harder, is drilling through the firewall and feeding that wire through it. Using a location to get the pass wire for the button itself, we're going to cut the boot that's around the steering column. It's made out of rubber. You can use a razor blade or some scissors just to puncture through it. The next thing I like to do is put some needle nose pliers through it so I can feed it from the engine bay, grab it, and pull it through the hole. I'll show you exactly how I do it. So here I wanted to show you where I went through the firewall. This is the steering column. I went to the side of it. And let me get some better lighting. I went to the side of it, and then I put the scissors through. And I'm going to show you guys where it comes out from the other end. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put some needle nose pliers through here, so that way I can grab the plug from the engine bay and feed it into the cab. Now let's talk about the wiring harness. The light bar comes with a black and a red, and on the generic wiring harness that we used, there is one pigtail that's also black and red. So there's a power and a ground, power and a ground. This is going to go to the light bar. As I unroll everything, there's a couple things that I'm going to have to do. So this is the end that is going to go to the light bar, and that's the pigtail that we discussed. Then going through the wiring harness, this is a relay, and off the relay there's 2 things. There is the positive and a negative wire that goes directly to the battery with a fuse, and then there's also a trigger wire which is supposed to be fed to the cab in order to control the light bar itself. So what we're going to do, since we made a little hole into the boot around the steering column, we're going to go ahead and take this out. I'm going to feed this wire into the cab, and then we're going to click it inside. So this is the smaller one, so I'm going to try to squeeze this through that boot opening. So I went ahead and put my needle nose pliers into the slit opening of the boot. I'm going to go ahead and spread them, and somebody on the other end is going to feed me the plug so I could pull it through.
Put your pliers, yeah. Okay, clamp. Okay, now pull. Keep going.
Okay, I see it. I'm gonna turn it when I
The hole was just
there you
really
go.
small.
Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled the wire through. So that's going to be the wire that goes to the button. This is the other end of the button that we're actually using. So we're going to plug in the wire that we fed through the firewall. And connect this button, install it somewhere inside the cab. So now that we got this wire into the cab, you find a good location. I personally like my wire here. It does have double-sided tape, so you can just connect it. You can hide all this wiring behind the trim panel, behind the fuse box. I'll show you guys how I put the cover back on. It goes like this. Now let's go back into the engine bay and do all the connections to the light bar and the power wire to the battery. So I want to show you where the wire's coming out from the boot. It's right here next to the steering column on the side. I don't know if you can see this or not. So this is the wire that turns the relay on and off. You can feed it through the side. Here's the relay itself. And off of the relay, there's two things that we have to do. First thing we have to do is worry about the power and the ground. So we can ground it here and extend the power wire to the battery. Some Sierras, heavy duties, they have a second battery here, so it'd be a lot more convenient. In this case, we're gonna extend this wire to the battery on the other side, on the passenger side. And then the second thing we're gonna have to do is connect the light bar to the power source. All right, so a couple things I'm gonna do. So let's say my relay is going to be in this location, and I'll zip tie it a little bit later. I'm gonna ground it here. We're gonna ground this here. And now the power wire, we're actually going to clip off. We're gonna extend this wire and carry it all the way to the battery. I'm gonna strip it. So here's the wire that we're gonna be using. We'll extend it using 12 gauge wire. We'll put a crimp connector on it. We're gonna connect our 12 gauge wire to the wire supplied by the hardware, by the harness. And we're gonna go ahead and feed this around. So we're gonna probably end up running it like this, across underneath all the trim pieces. We'll zip tie it later, so I'll probably need this length. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. I went ahead and cut it. I'm going to strip it, and on this end of the wire, I'm gonna go ahead and put an eyelid, so that way it can go onto the battery terminal. There we go. Let's see where we're gonna connect it to. So we can take this cover off. There's a couple places we can get it. Okay. So we're gonna remove this. We're gonna feed this through. And that's how we're gonna get power to the wiring harness. Okay. Now we're gonna zip tie all this stuff, put this back on, a protective cover. Now the last thing that's left is connecting the power and the ground cable from the wiring harness to the light bar. Let's see how we're gonna feed these wires through the side of the headlight. I think this would work out great. So the last thing we have to do is connect the light bar power wire on the ground to the power and the ground of the wiring harness, and we're gonna go ahead and do it through crimp connectors. And after we crimp this, we can go ahead and test the button inside the cab. All right, let's go see. Let's go see if we did everything correctly.
Go ahead.
The 40-inch slide bar that we decided to install on the bottom slit of the grill. Keep in mind that this is a rail system. You can move it up if you wanted to install a bit higher as well. And this concludes an installation of a single 40-inch slide bar setup on a GMC Sierra 2500.